Donald Trump's father died with Alzheimer's. His niece says it's something that runs in the family. And yet the Trump administration just canceled $15 million of Alzheimer's research because someone at the NIH saw the word discrimination in a grant and decided the whole program was DEI. It's almost like Alzheimer and dementia hit a little close to home for the Trump regime, right? And look, this is something that we've seen before with all sorts of grants that have been axed by Doge for stupid reasons. After AI told these Doge kids that something was DEI. And credit to The Guardian because they broke this specific story. And they're saying that at least 3 grants that total $15 million at Emory and the University of Pittsburgh were killed at the end of July. Both of those programs are 2 of the best brain health programs in the country. And the studies were trying to answer one question. Why do Black Americans get Alzheimer's at twice the rate of white Americans? And to do so, they were looking at brain scans, blood samples, MRIs, wearable monitors, and surveys, asking people what their life was like, what they had been through. You know, real, actual science with real, actual patients and years of real, actual data collected. And then they received cancellation letters from the NIH director, Jay Bhattacharya. And they said, these letters said that the projects no longer effectuate NIH's priorities. And they showed a lack of concrete, objective, and measurable variables. First, I will note that these letters did not utilize the Oxford comma, which personally made me extremely angry. But going on to say a lack of concrete, objective, and measurable variables, what are they talking about? MRIs, blood work, brain imaging. If that's not measurable, what the hell is? And what did these researchers say about getting canceled? Andrea Rosso at Pitt, quote, "Whoever was doing this saw the words they didn't like in our grant," end quote. Ann Cohen at Pitt, "It's so scientifically wrong that I can't get past that piece." And Negar Fani, I hope I got that name right, at Emory described what actually went down. Money that was supposed to come in January didn't show up until June. So they were running these studies on fumes, people not getting paid. Then the money finally arrived, and a month later, a termination letter followed it. It's cruelty with a concierge grin, which is my not-so-subtle way of shoehorning in the concierge, Home Alone 2. Rest in peace, Tim Curry, Mr. Hector, the guy that was smiling at a 10-year-old with his little clipboard in hand while he's calling security. Trump's in that movie too, by the way. He made the director put him in there as his price for filming in his hotel. And look, Donald Trump and Rob Schneider are both absolutely awful in the movie. 2 of the worst performances ever committed to film, right there back to back. And Tim Curry walked in with a smirk and stole the entire movie. And that's the same feeling as these NIH letters. A smirk with a clipboard telling a scientist that the study she spent 4 years on no longer effectuates anybody's priorities. And I know that's not a perfect analogy, but I needed to pay tribute to Tim Curry somehow. And look, by the way, there is a lot of irony here, especially with what people are seeing in Donald Trump. Dr. John Paul Garrison, a licensed clinical and forensic psychologist, has gone frame by frame through 2 recent White House events and saw concerning neurological symptoms. A spasm in his right arm that shows up every time Trump has to stand there while somebody else talks appears to be involuntary. Dr. Garrison says that that could be caused by post-stroke damage or other issues like Alzheimer's, for example, that disrupt communication between the brain and various parts of the body. Alzheimer's. Garrison goes on to note that aside from being creepy, Donald Trump repeating lines like "young, beautiful girls" over and over at events, Garrison says that that's a textbook sign of something called preservation. Repeating yourself because your brain can't stop. Quote, "The brain is breaking down and you can't stop it," end quote. So now you have an alleged dementia or Alzheimer's patient in the White House cutting funding for Alzheimer's research. It's a hell of a headline. But look, this isn't just about 3 grants, because this has happened across our entire government. In 2025, the NIH awarded 52% fewer Alzheimer's grants than the year before, 369 down to 177. And Trump proposed cutting the entire NIH budget by 40%. Last year, the Supreme Court, 5-4, on the shadow docket, let Donald Trump kill $783 million in grants at the NIH in the name of ending DEI. And Tammy Baldwin had to sit across from RFK Jr. in a hearing and ask him out loud whether Alzheimer's research centers are DEI, because he was sitting on $65 million for 14 of these research centers.
I'll ask you, is funding for Alzheimer's disease research centers DEI? Because you're holding up $65 million for 14 of those centers in 9 states, including the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
And look, this is a huge issue. And I've got to ask you guys in the comments, has Alzheimer's or dementia touched your family? Most of you, I know you're going to say yes, because 7 million Americans, they've got it. And here in Florida, we're second in the country. So drop a comment. Tell me how this has impacted your life or your family. But I want you to remember who was running this stupid operation, the stupid filter. It was Doge. A bunch of 20-somethings running around grant titles, running them through an AI keyword search. One of these guys, if you remember, got deposed and couldn't define DEI under oath. And yet he canceled billions of dollars of grants over it and still couldn't tell you what DEI meant. That's who decided that brain scans and MRIs weren't real science. These people either don't understand the science or they don't care, but frankly, I think it's both. Because you don't find the cause of a disease by only studying the people who get it least. If one group gets it twice the rate, Black Americans, that group is where the answer's hiding. Blood pressure, neighborhoods, stress, whatever it turns out to be, that's what you follow. And every serious Alzheimer's research on Earth knows that. Look, Fred Trump Sr. was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. It's documented. The family set him up with an office and fed him fake paperwork so that he thought he was still running things. Mary Trump and Fred Trump III, the niece and the nephew, have both said that cognitive decline runs in the family. Donald, of course, denies all of it. So you have that overweight, alleged dementia patient whose father had the actual diagnosed disease, canceling research into Alzheimer's and dementia. All because a grant mentioned Black people. Meanwhile, 7 million Americans are suffering from this disease, and so are their families. One of them could be the guy signing the very order. Doctors and experts have been saying this out loud for a while. Sanjay Gupta on the acting out behavior, changes, lashing out. A group of psychiatrists in May calling it rapidly worsening, reality untethered, increasingly dangerous decline. And now you have a forensic psychologist watching arm spasms. You got to keep in mind, the White House hasn't released a full physical since April of last year. But officially, he's in excellent health. And the guy who's been bragging about acing cognitive tests 3 times, you got to remember, it's because he's been asked to take the cognitive test 3 times and decided research into that disease is woke. Every other family in this country has a mother or a father or an aunt or an uncle facing decline, and they are hoping somebody finds out about it in time and finds a cure. Yet Donald Trump crushed the research. And nobody's parent cares what neighborhood the study was in. This is a disease that eats away at virtually anyone's parents. And every dollar of research that dies because a kid with a keyword filter didn't like one word could be a day that someone's family doesn't get back. The memory care unit isn't political. Storms make trees take deeper roots. A wise lady said, "Thank you, Dolly." And the same lady said, "Find out who you are and do it on purpose." I guess she didn't envision Donald Trump seeing Alzheimer's and canceling that on purpose. Hit the notification bell, especially since corporate networks glossed over this, and the disease that impacts 7 million Americans right now is still out there. We will keep looking into it. So do me a favor, give us a like, give us a comment. Everything helps. And if you really want to support our mission, consider becoming a member.